Namaskar. Today in this satsang we are going to discuss about satsang. So a satsang about satsang. What a fun thing to do, right? Now it's also somewhat complicated because how do we really do a satsang on a satsang itself? It's kind of a so today I will take recourse or take the help of a reference Essential Spirituality. This is written, as you can see, by Dr. Roger Walsh. Uh, Roger Walsh, I must tell you, is an amazing personality. I had the good fortune to know him and work closely with him when we were working together in the Integral Institute, uh, along with Ken Wilber's under his vision long back. The amazing thing about Roger Walsh is that he is, if other than everything else that this book talks about, he is also a world record holder, or at least used to be a world record holder, Guinness Book of World Record holder, in terms of the number of simultaneously or somersaults, the consecutive somersaults that anyone had ever done. So that apart, he's also someone who's a professor right now in California. But as you can see, he's an MD, PhD. He's done studied a lot of variety of subjects, from physiology to neuroscience to psychiatry and psychology and all that. He maintains that as he was growing up in Australia, he was as a child or as a young boy, as he was growing up, he was far away from religion. He was very distant. He was primarily dedicated towards the scientific kind of bent of living and bent of belief system. And he would, in fact, make fun of his slightly more religious friends, so to say, is how he talks about himself. But as he kind of moved from Australia to America to US to further pursue his research and his interest in a variety of scientific subjects, which included psychology and neurosciences and all that, he also started dabbling with, he came in touch with and started dabbling with meditation, dhyana as it is called. And then through meditation, he got connected with a lot of practitioners of spiritual practices, so to say. And then, but mostly at that point of time, initially it was the Asian kind of practices, Buddhism and a lot of Hinduism related practices. Which connected him with meditation as such. And through meditation, he recognized that there was a deep connect with whatever he had studied in science. He could his eyes opened up to this new vistas of what science had not completely revealed, and he could find some new areas which really interested him. And then he found that these practices, which he really termed as perennial practices, which is also has been called Sanatan sadhana. Practices are sadhana, as we always say, deep committed practices, sadhana. And perennial is Sanatan, means ageless, which doesn't have a beginning or end in time. It's very common in India. It's in fact, Hinduism and Buddhism and all religions are believed to come from Sanatan Dharma, which is that religion which has no beginning and end in time. And it's Chirantan, as they say, or Anadi Anant, timeless. No beginning in time is Anadi, and Anant is no end in time. So that way it is eternal, timeless. So eternal religion or Sanatan Dharma always has eternal or Sanatan sadhana or perennial practices from time immemorial to time infinite. So past infinite to future infinite practices. So he says that he discovered that every religion has some of these tucked in between. Now he says that he found, and we all find this, that there are a lot of traps in religion, as in a lot of practices and rituals which do not have much relevance, which we at least cannot find much context in today's world. But then there are these perennial practices tucked or hidden beneath every religion, which are perennial in nature, eternal in nature, Sanatan. So he wrote this book after 23 years of research on all these different religions. He really studied six religions, six of the main great religions which have maximum following all over the world, and went deep into it and unearthed the common seven practices which were perennial practices which were present in all these religions one way or the other. It might have seemed initially to him that the Asian religions, like mostly like Buddhist or Hinduism, and a little bit of these had little more of these perennial or meditative practices. But then very soon he found that even Christianity or Islam or Jewish, everyone had these practices hidden somewhere or the other. So he kind of brought out these commonalities within all these perennial practices and wrote this book called Essential Spirituality, and that is what it has 7 chapters. This is chapter 1. The 7 chapters that this book has is about, they are about these, as you can see, the content, the seven practices are there which make up the 7 chapters. I am not today going into all those, what is there in this book as the 7 chapters, but the thing that I want to draw your attention to is this part, which is the introduction to the book. You can see even before chapter 1 starts, he's already written this much, which is very important. And most people tend to forget this part and go into this. Now, this is the introductory part where he talks about the background to these and how he discovered it. And that's very important to kind of, for you to understand where he's coming from. But today, in order to explain the importance of the satsang, and to understand the meaning of the satsang, I want to draw your attention to the last paragraph of this introductory piece. So this is about 23 years of research on all religions, finding out, the 6 great religions, finding out the common perennial practices within them, the common thread, and then this book is a distillation of all that. And this is the introduction to the book where he says, how can you actually get the most out of the book? Most of reading this or practicing these whatever is committed here. Now, as you can understand, in Karma Yoga for 21st Century's Fit for Life program, we take all of this. This is the depth and breadth of stuff that we draw from. And this, as you can see, draws from a lot of other stuff which we draw from. And so it's all part of the integral thought process, which is kind of pioneered by Ken Wilber, and who's all pioneered in today's age by Ken Wilber. Ken obviously says that it is pioneered by, in an ageless way, by so many thought leaders. And Roger also, Dr. Walsh, gives special credit to Ken in this book. But coming back to the last paragraph, let me just read this last paragraph from the introduction to the book. He says, ideally, the discipline will be accompanied by a spiritual community, a group of like-minded people, similarly dedicated to transpersonal growth. That's very important. So he's talking about, in your sadhana, the importance of a community. What is this community? It's a group of like-minded people committed to transpersonal growth. Now that's very important. Personal growth is very important. We all know that, and a lot of us are doing stuff for our own personal growth. But he says that it's important, and he says means it's also part of the entire Karma Yoga for 21st Century philosophy, the Fit for Life program, and all these perennial practices that he talks about from time immemorial. The importance of a community of people who are committed to transpersonal growth. Now, I discussed the pre-trance fallacy one of these days earlier. You can refer to it if you want to. So trance is just going beyond. So personal growth, transpersonal growth, going beyond your narrow personal self to the self with a big S. So people committed to transpersonal growth, a group of people should get together, and together you should be engaged in your satsang or in your sadhana. That is what he refers to. Now he also says this community will provide the support that the larger community cannot, which means you might think that you are part of a community. Well, you have friends from your colleagues or from your workplace, from your batchmates from your school or your college where you studied, or you have your locality, in India we call it the mohalla or the pada. It could be your city, your village. It could be you can feel communion with your state, with your country, with your religious fellow beings. All of that, these are all communities and they're very valid. They always give you support in many different ways. But in your practice, in your sadhana, you need a smaller community of maximum, let's say, 6, 7, 8, maximum 11 people. I wouldn't go more than that. I wouldn't. 11 or so people who form a sangh, who form a community of or a group of like-minded, like-spirited people motivated by transpersonal growth. And then he says that the larger community cannot provide the kind of support that this group does. And he also says, ideally, this will include one or more advanced practitioners who can act as guides or teachers. So this group of 7, 11, or 9, 10 people should have one or two advanced practitioners. If you are just starting, you should look for people who have been practicing for some time, maybe 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 200 years, 700 years. This is all perennial, as you know, so that you could have people who've been practicing for time immemorial. So try and get a group with one or two at least such people who can act as senior practitioners, senior sadhaks, people who are in the sadhana for a longer period of time, and they can act as guides or teachers in the satsang, in your sangha or sangat, or in your group or in your small community. And then he also says that it is possible to make progress alone. It is possible if you do the sadhana all by yourself, alone, sitting, because nowadays with pandemic, with lockdowns, and with especially this technology, it's very possible that you are using the screen or to really do this alone by yourself. And you're also thinking that, well, I'm connected. There are thousands of people and maybe hundreds of thousands of people who are also part of this through this virtual medium. But he also says that it is possible to make progress alone, but the support of a group and the guidance of a teacher is invaluable. I would say it is inevitable. It is invincible. If you have the support of a small group of about 11 people, and which includes at least one or two senior practitioners, that support is invaluable. And that's something that we have personally, all of us have understood, not just from what Roger says. I mean, of course, he's summarized it all, but we've personally verified this and seen the value of this small group with one or two senior practitioners. And that's the objective of our satsang every day, and objective of this program itself. You could connect with this through the Fit for Life program. We may have hundreds and thousands of members joining in and forming the larger community, but it's very important to have your satsangis or your sadhana brothers, so to say, brothers and sisters who are kind of doing the sadhana together in small groups, ideally sitting in the same place under the same roof, or without a roof, on the same kind of ground together, where you can be face to face, sharing the actual energy space together, and of course connecting through the screen, through the technology, with the larger group. Well, that's the idea of the satsang, and that's the importance of satsangs. So much for today. Thanks a lot for listening in. I hope this will help you in your sadhana, in following the sadhana paddhati of Karma Yoga for 21st Century and the Fit for Life program. Thanks for listening in. As I said, have a great day. Take it easy and take care. Namaskar.